to help us all retire, Mitchell Orenstein. He is the chairman of Northeastern University's Political Science Department. Welcome to the show. Good to see you, sir. So,
thank you.
So, a lot of us watching, we're all in different age groups. We all, of course, do think about retirement. So, step one, how do we define what does best mean when you think of retirement? Because I'm sure all of us have different standards, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different standards at play. I would say, first of all, it depends on the context. So I think the first important step and first important standard is do people have a pension? In the countries that you were discussing in your program so far, there's a big problem of what I would call coverage. That means the percent of people who actually get a pension. In China, the rural population tends to be excluded from the pension system or have extremely low pensions. In Brazil, one of the speakers was talking about temporary workers who don't get pensions. So the biggest problem in pensions in developing countries is really the issue of coverage, and do people actually have access to a pension at all?
Yeah.
In terms of when you get beyond that issue, then the question becomes the level. And the level is kind of a tough question. On the one hand, governments try to provide a basic pension that keeps people out of poverty. On the other hand, they're also inclined to provide people with pensions that match their prior incomes, that replace a proportion of their prior incomes. So there's a lot of different elements at play, and of course the best system is one that gives everybody lots and lots of money, but those turn out to be often unsustainable.
I mean, I was going to joke about it, but you brought it up. It does make a difference, right? Because it's not just about the money necessarily, because a good pension, you might get a very small amount of money, but you have perhaps great health care, you have other benefits. There's all sorts of things that come into play, and I guess that leads me to the question of best. Is there a country that you can say, and I know we talked about Denmark earlier, but is there a country where you can say it's the best and why?
Well, I think in Denmark's case, one of the things that makes it a great pension system is that not only is the government providing pensions, but it's pretty much required that employers provide pensions. So some 90% of people now get an income-related pension that is related to their prior income at work, in part through their employer. So they have actually several different pension systems that all put together work out to a great pension system. And so I think that layering is very important. I would say that for me, the best pension system is actually kind of along the Anglo and American model, which is a sort of middle road. What the British and the American pension systems try to do is they don't try to do too much. They don't try to provide a huge pension for people, but they try to provide a decent amount for older people so that people stay out of poverty and that they have a supplemental or an important source of income.
A pension system is not supposed to make you rich. And I don't know how we went down this road. It's supposed to keep people from being poor or help those that need the help most. Let me talk about the demographics, because we look at Japan, we look at the US, we look at Europe. It's great that we compare benefits, but we should be fair. There's a very different demographic of populations to take care of, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, pension systems typically have been founded in countries where the population is growing and where there's a lot of workers in proportion to old people. And what's happened in most societies, and China is also happening in developing societies now, is that as the population ages, it's hard to keep the retirement age raising in the same extent as the life expectancy is raising. So what happens is that the time in retirement in many societies has gotten much, much longer. In the United States, when we established a pension retirement age of 65, the average life expectancy was only a couple years beyond that. Now we have people 30 years in retirement, 25, 30 on average. So that's been, in a way, the biggest financing problem for pension systems, is that it's hard to upgrade the retirement age to the extent that it should.
So before I came on to the show, I went and checked the Social Security website. I get Social Security here in the US. And it comes out to be roughly $1,000 a month that I would get for the rest of my life when I get a little bit older. And I'm sure I'm echoing what everyone is thinking in the control room as well, is that, hey, I'm not going to count on Social Security, so I'm going to have to count on either my 401k plan or some sort of other defined benefit program, or myself. I'll go out and buy apartments. We've got people here who work on their retirement. They said, forget it. I'm not going to count on the government at all. I'm going to go do my own plan and go buy apartments. What's the good balance here? I mean, what do you recommend people do?
Well, first of all, a couple of misconceptions. I suspect that your retirement benefit in the United States would be more like double what you've said. So it'd be more like in the range of 25,000 a year, which is pretty substantial. Of course, there's many other sources of income, and in the United States, about a third of the population benefits from employer pensions, 401ks, or others that especially higher income individuals rely on for most of their income. In the United States, 80% of the people rely heavily on Social Security, and for the lowest half of the population, that's really their predominant source of income.
Well,
so,
I apologize. We're out of time, but we could probably spend a good 10 minutes just on Social Security and how it may not be enough for a lot of the folks out there who are perhaps counting on it. Thank you again.
Absolutely. Always good to save more.
Yeah, always good to save more. Mitchell, good to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Stay warm up there.